Hi everyone, good evening. Welcome to Photography Corner. I'm Paige. I own, for those of you who don't know me, I own the Fat Photog, so I create courses and presets and actions for Photoshop and Lightroom, and I'm one of the photography and editing experts here in Flourish. So, tonight I'm going to be answering your questions. So if you have questions, please let me know in the comments. And but before we start, I wanted to talk to you guys. So yesterday started my August coaching. So I have one-on-one coaching, and so that started yesterday, and I actually overwhelmingly got a lot of responses from people in the coaching saying that they just are afraid to start and they don't know where to start, and they're afraid they're going to make mistakes and they're going to have horrible product photos, and they just don't know where to start. And so I thought, while you guys are thinking of questions that you may have for me in Photoshop or Lightroom or photography or whatever, I thought that I would kind of talk to you about where you can start and just, getting over that fear of perfection. So a few things about, hi Angela. So a few things about me. So I tend to be kind of a procrastinator, and part of that is because I have a little bit of I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, as my therapist tells me. And so that leads to me procrastinating a lot because I have this fear of not getting things right and not doing things well, or people perceiving what I'm doing not the way that I would want. So I also have like a big fear of rejection. So I definitely know, I understand where people are coming from, because like if I had to do some of the things that you guys do in your businesses, crocheting, some of you guys are knitting, some of the woodwork and stuff, you guys are amazing artisans. So I get where you're coming from, because if I had to do that, I would definitely procrastinate and never want to get started, because that's totally out of my wheelhouse. So I definitely understand that we all have our things that are within our wheelhouse. And so I just happen to be somebody who, really likes photography, and it's something that I feel I'm good at. And it's something that, I've been doing for a really long time, which is part of why I'm good at it. So, I know sometimes it's easy for me to be like, oh, well, that's just simple. You just, press this button or do this. And it's not that way for you guys. And I understand the fear, because, I think what it boils down to is a lot of people don't even know where to start. And so my biggest suggestion for all of you is to start with having fun and take the pressure off of yourselves for, don't start with trying to just go out there and take like the most amazing product photos ever. You'll get there, but, you really need to kind of go out there and experiment first, experiment with photography and take the pressure off of it, because that will kind of take the procrastination out of it. You won't be, oh, I have to meet this deadline. And, that allows you to like procrastinate and not, do what you need to do. You'll just be doing it, and, set yourself a goal. Like one day this week, I'm going to go to a garden and I'm just going to take pictures of flowers. Or, one day this week, while the kids are at the park, I'm just going to try to take some really nice shots of my kids playing, or something that is completely unrelated to your business. And just start with that and start playing with your camera or your phone or whatever it is that you're using. And just start learning what it can do. And also another thing that I am a huge proponent of, if you have a camera manual, if you do have like a digital SLR or mirrorless or something like that, definitely just at least peruse through the manual. I know some people are more hands-on learners, and some people are more, like they have to read things, and some people have to watch things. So, at least just like peruse it and see, okay, like this is kind of what I'm wanting to learn. And if you're, you'll at least have like a reference point. And if you're somebody who does need to do that hands-on, you walk through it hands-on as you're reading through it. If you're somebody who needs to see somebody do it, Google your camera model. Like if you Google, videos on, a Canon Rebel T6, you will find lots of videos. Look for videos, kind of read the comments though, because sometimes YouTube is hit or miss. So you could find some crazy advice, but Flern, it's PH and then like learn, always has really good tutorials and stuff. So that's always a good one to go to. And really learn your camera, because if you learn your camera, that is really going to help you a lot. And so that's my one set of advice. Take the work out of it. And I know you have probably so much on your plate, but it doesn't have to be a lot of time, just like I'm just going to try to take like a pretty flat lay. And then if you get a pretty picture, like if you're at a garden and you take a pretty picture of the flowers or something, you can turn that into, content to engage with people on Instagram, something about how, you stepped away out of the office to, get back to nature or something like that. So you don't have to look at it as something just that's completely useless. But that play and everything will really help. It'll help you take out the pressure from it. And then once you are starting to learn your camera more and you're really starting to get into the groove of things, it's going to be easier when you do have to do that product photography. The next thing that I think is really important when you are like, I don't know where to start, is you can kind of there are tricks that you can do. So if you don't know where to start with manual settings, you can you at least like learn what the exposure settings are. So like learn what shutter does, learn what aperture does, learn what ISO does. So you at least know what they are and like what they're kind of doing. So when you look at your camera, you can kind of understand what it's shooting in. But one thing that you can do is you can shoot in manual mode. And you can shoot in auto mode and look at the camera settings that the camera came up with and use that as a starting point for your photos. Or if if you understand the aperture controls your depth of field, you can start an aperture priority and set your aperture where you want it. And then your camera's going to set that shutter in ISO, or you can do that with shutter where it's going to set the shutter, and shutter priority will set the shutter. And if all of these are just sounding very scary to you and you're like, I have no idea what those mean or what any of those words mean, and that just is like, whew, way over my head, I have a free mini course about the exposure triangle and how to get out of auto and start shooting into manual mode. And after the video, I'll put the link in the comments and you guys can sign up for that. It's a free course. It's very short. It's a mini course, so it should take you about 15 minutes. There are some cheat sheets in there. And then there's also a link to, another video where I actually show you how you can shoot in auto and then take those settings and put them into manual and kind of start from there where I actually am doing it. So that is, so that's the other thing. Use those cheats. Don't, start somewhere. The important thing is to start. And then, lastly, the more you do it, the more you're taking photos and the more you're doing it, the easier it'll become, the better you'll become. But there are some things that will help you. One, if you have a camera that can shoot in RAW, make sure you're shooting in RAW, because that will give you a little extra leeway while you're learning how to use your camera. It'll give you that little extra leeway with your photos. So if you do make kind of an icky mistake, you can fix it better. So that's one thing. One, make sure you have a lot of light when you're shooting. So I cannot stress this enough. You need to have enough light. If you're trying to shoot in a dark, dingy place, or you're somewhere that does not get a lot of natural light, like, I really hate to tell you this, you're just going to have to suck it up and you're going to have to get some kind of strobe or some kind of light. So you're either going to have to get like flash strobes where they flash like your traditional flash strobes, or some type of continuous lighting. So you can have that light, because, you are not going to get good photos if you have harsh light, or if you don't have a lot of light. You're going to get shadows. You're going to get all kinds of icky stuff. You're going to run into like white balance problems and all kinds of issues and noise and stuff that you don't want. So you have to have a lot of light. So those are really the things that you need. You need light, you need to play, and you need to take the pressure off yourself. You don't have to be the world's best product photographer, 10 minutes after you start shooting photos. So that's kind of, what I would suggest to you guys about, stepping outside of your comfort zone and just do it. So you're never going to get better if you're sitting there and you're like, I'm never going to do this. And then, if you do decide that product photography isn't for you and your business is as a place where you can outsource it, then maybe that's what you need to do. Product photography isn't for everyone. And some people much rather spend their time doing something else. And if your business can support hiring out, talk to Zuli, talk to Brandy. They're great product photographers. They'll take your products and they'll shoot them. They're right here in this group and they're amazing. So that's always fine. It's okay to turn in the towel and like not do something that's completely out of your wheelhouse. But if it's something that you want to learn and you think you do have the capacity to learn, or it's something you need to learn because you need to have those better product photos so you can sell more products, then you just have to do it. And I mean, that's really what it boils down to, is just doing it. And I completely understand how it's hard, because if I feel like I'm not going to be, even sometimes when I take photos, if I feel like I wasn't happy with the shoot the way it went, like I won't want to edit the photos. Like, it's crazy. I understand how the human brain can make you just do crazy things that are counterintuitive to what you need to be doing. But the best thing is just to keep doing it and keep trying, and you will get better. So, okay. So I think I have a couple questions. Okay. So, winters in the far north. Definitely. If you're in, just hit my microphone, sorry. If you're in the far north and you it's winter. I live in Northeast Ohio. Some winter days are pretty icky and there's not a lot of light. And I actually have a lot of natural light in my house. I have some pretty big windows and stuff, but some days it's just not gonna happen. I'm gonna have to bring something in. Sometimes that's a necessity, and natural light is great. It's wonderful. And if you have lots of it, yay, that's wonderful. But, for me personally, I had to learn how to use light. And let me tell you, when I first started using, lights, I had no idea what I was doing. Like, I actually was like making things worse. So I get that it's hard and it's really just a lot of trial and error. But, I got to the point where I didn't want to have to work around, certain days. And, and I have, kids. So, if it's a day that they're at school or at their grandma's or whatever, and I have to work, then I have to do it. Like, I can't just like wait for the sun to agree with what I want to do. So I definitely get that. Let's see, there's another question. What is better, shooting outside on a cloudy day or inside close to a window? So that's kind of a loaded question. So I don't know that there is a better. It's like what works for you. So if you're shooting outside on a cloudy day, the nice thing about the clouds is that the clouds are working as like this giant diffuser for you. So they're making, if there's a lot of clouds, they're diffusing the sun and it's creating like a lot of open shade, which means that you're going to have like nice diffused lighting where you're not going to have like the sun directly like pointing on something, making, like sun pointing and then like creating a shadow. So that's really nice. If you shoot in front of a window, a lot of times your window is going to kind of diffuse the light and stuff. And like, the light is not, unless your window is like the sun is like shooting directly in it, you're not going to have that direct sunlight. So it's going to be diffused lighting as well. So, really it's like whatever works for you. And no matter how you, no matter where you shoot or how you're shooting, like the same things apply. You want to have like a lot of light. You want to make sure you're using the right camera settings or trying to use the right camera settings, and that you're watching your shadows. So I see a lot of people that, they'll get shadows in their picture and they'll be like, well, I don't know how to, get rid of the shadows or whatever. Well, move things around until you get move things around until, you get your product and the light angled the way that you need it. So sometimes it's trial and error. Sometimes you have to move your body. Sometimes you have to move the product. Sometimes you're going to need something like a reflector, and you can use something as easy. So this is kind of beat up, but you can use something as simple as a white photo board. So this can reflect light onto your product and kind of help diffuse shadows. So, you don't, but you can also get like reflectors on Amazon for pretty cheap too. So it's, there is no right or wrong. I mean, I would probably avoid like being out in an open field, like right at noon with the sun like right overhead. I mean, can you do it? Sure. I'm sorry. Things are going crazy. You can do it, sure. And if you know enough and you maybe have a reflector or something, you could probably get away with it. It's going to be kind of difficult and it's going to be a pain in the butt, but I mean, there is no right or wrong time. It's just, you have to, find out what works for you. I mean, if, I can get some really nice diffuse lighting when the weather's really cold here in Northeast Ohio and take, a pretty nice photo. But I mean, if it's like, below freezing, I don't know if that really works for me. So, then I would probably then I would be shooting inside in front of a window. So you can do both, and both of them will work. And if, so here's the thing with photography. So start with playing, but once you start to know stuff, once you know your camera settings and you can shoot in manual, if you're getting things done, on the back end, if you're getting the camera settings done right and your camera on the back end, then you're going to be able to edit your photos pretty consistently, whether they were taken in different settings, whether they are taken at different times of day. You're going to get pretty consistent images overall, just by, because you had proper exposure in your camera. Now, if you're shooting in auto and that's what you're comfortable with, that's fine, but just know you might have to tweak things a little bit more to get all your photos to match. But, as you start to get things and all of the settings start clicking and you're doing things right in camera, and then you can, use presets and do things right in Lightroom, things are really going to click and become really easy for you to create really nice, consistent product photos. All right, let's see. Okay, our light box is good to use. Yeah, definitely. So what a light box does is a light box is like a piece of, a light box has like a piece of fabric that's like you can kind of see through it. And I don't know, okay, so I don't know if you can see this. So I have like a sheet under here, and I'm actually using that to diffuse the light that's behind me because I have these big windows, and right now it's not really an issue, but if I'm shooting during the day, then the sun's streaming through my window, and then it'll cause like this weird backlighting situation. So that's kind of a light box basically is like essentially like this white fabric. It's diffusing the light and it's softening it and it's spreading it out, versus just having like a light bulb where it's going to be like the direct sun. So if you have a light bulb shooting on something, it's going to be like having direct sunlight on your product, and it's going to, the light is very focused. So it's like, the light is like very focused in on the product, where if you have a diffuser, it makes that light spread out more. So light boxes are definitely good to use because it's going to diffuse that light. It's going to spread it out more. And the more spread out your light is, the less likely you are to have those like really harsh shadows. So definitely, light boxes are great. Amazon has some. I've really been impressed with some of the new like LED ones that they've come out with. LEDs can be like super bright, and so they have some like LED ones, but they don't get like really hot, which is nice. But if you're gonna get one that has like the fluorescent bulbs, Just make sure that the bulbs are rated like CRI 91, and you'll find it in like the description. You just have to like look in the description, which just means that the light bulbs are going to have a better, they're going to render color that's like truer to life. And then, I prefer the ones that have 3 bulbs or 4 bulbs, so then you can kind of adjust the light a little bit. So if you get the ones that just have 1 bulb, they're really cheap, but they're not very powerful, and you can't really adjust it. But if you have like 2 or 3 bulbs, like maybe you need just 2 bulbs, or maybe you're going to need all 3, or some days you may just need 1. So it's just something to help you out there. All right, let's see. Okay. Is white wrapping paper as good as a reflector? So a reflector, if you buy a reflector on Amazon, typically what you're going to find are like 4-in-1 reflectors. So they do more things. So, you're going to have, it'll be in like a case, and the case will have like a gold side, which is going to cast like kind of a golden light. It'll have like a shiny metally looking side, which is going to cast like a brighter white, reflection. And then the middle, if you take it out, like it's in a case, in the middle, you take it out, it's white, but then it's also like a diffuser. So you can use it 2 ways. You can use it like in front of the light. So the light reflects and bounces, but you can also use it as a diffuser to diffuse light. So, you can't do that with like a white poster board, which is fine, but a white poster board works just fine if you're like, okay, I'm going to go spend $1 at the dollar store and get a white poster board. And then if you need it to be shinier, reflect more light, you can cover it in aluminum foil. That's a totally acceptable fix if you're bootstrapping things. Like that's totally fine. I find that reflectors are a little, like if I'm out on a shoot or whatever, or if I am doing like a big shoot and I need like multiple reflectors are easier because you can also, like they have, like you can clip them easier onto tripods and stuff and position them. But if I'm just doing like a quick flat lay, like I'll use a poster board for my flat lay, and then I'll use another poster board for like a reflector. And, poster board, it's great. Like it's really nice. It's like a nice, clean, flat surface. And it works really well. It's, not, like if you get the stuff that's like the foam poster board, so it has like a little bit of thickness, it's not going to bend, and it's a nice stable, sorry, it's a nice stable thing that you can use. Sorry. Okay. Okay. Can you show me how to blur a photo background, either in mobile Lightroom or my computer? I can't seem to find the tools to do it. Okay, so you may hate me, but no, I will not show you how to blur a background on your phone or in Photoshop. Stay with me though. I'm not just like a big meanie. So here's the thing. Blur should happen in camera. And you can create blur a lot of different ways. Blur can be created by, so there's several things that control like depth of field and your, and blur. So the first thing, and probably like the easiest thing to manipulate if you have a digital SLR, is to get what we call a fast lens. So a fast lens is going to have a very wide open aperture. So, 1.8, 2.8, something like that. So that's one thing that's going to control the depth of field, because the wider open your aperture is, and like I said, if you don't know what any of these terms mean, and I'm totally confusing you, sign up for that free course and then come back and watch this. But if you have a wide open aperture, more light is getting in, and it's really going to create a shallow depth of field. So it's going to be the type of photo, where, let me see if I can just find one for you real quick. Should be in my recents here. Bum, bum, bum. Because I just think it'll be easier to show you here. I'm not. Okay. Well, I don't have one, but, oh, wait, actually I do. I just need to go over to Lightroom real quick. Okay. So let me just show you. Actually, I think I have, no. Okay, well, you can kind of see it in this photo. Okay, so this photo was taken at, go to your library. Okay, so this photo was taken at f2.2. So that's a very wide open aperture. And so you can see here, this front cookie is in focus, but these back cookies are out of focus. So that blur was created entirely in camera. So it was controlled by that depth of field. Another way that you can create blur, if you don't have a very fast lens, maybe you just have the kit lenses, maybe you have those kit zoom lenses. One thing that you can do to help create blur is by creating compression blur. And compression blur is created by using a very, like a telephoto lens. And so, let me see, I'll get my lens out. So my lens here, this is a zoom lens, and it goes up to 150 millimeters. So if I were to shoot at 150 millimeters, like very zoomed in, like, you know, I'd have to be far away from what I'm shooting. But if I were to shoot at 150 millimeters, what your camera is going to do is it's going to compress everything, and it's going to make the background look blurrier, and it's going to make your subject look more in focus. So like if you have your subject there, you're zoomed all the way in on your subject, it's going to automatically blur out that background. So that's one way that you can do it. And so if you're somebody who just has like a kit lens, that's one way you can do it. Find like the most zoomed in that you can be and shoot there, because that's going to give you that compression blur if you can't shoot like wide open with your aperture. And then the other thing that creates blur is having space between your subject and the background. So this background behind me, like I'm just using my FaceTime camera on my iMac, but like the farther back I move this background, like the more out of focus it would look behind me, because I'm going to be in focus, but the background's going to become less in focus. And so you're not going to be able to see the sequence as individually, because the focus is on me. So if you just have like a cell phone, then that's one way that you can create that blur. Just make sure that your product is moved farther away from the background. The problem with creating fake blur is that it is very hard to create blur in a way that it looks believable and that it doesn't look just horrible. So yes, technically there are some ways that you could do it. You can add blur. You can mess with clarity in Lightroom, which will kind of soften things. You could do like a Gaussian blur in Photoshop, and stuff like that. But I really caution against that, because it's not going to look believable. And a lot of times people are like, oh, I think I need to add like fake blur to this photo to make it look better. And that's not really what you need. Like you're just, if things are, if things look, nice, and you have a lot of nice lighting and stuff, like it doesn't matter if the background is like super blurry. And if you need that background to be super blurry because it doesn't look right, then maybe your background is too busy. So like if you have a lot of props and they're not blurry, then maybe you need to remove those props from the image and let your product shine that way. Because blur can be a nice creative tool to make your photo, make your product stand out, but it's not the only tool that you have. Sometimes you just need to, maybe there's too much clutter. If you think you need that background blur or something, then maybe you just need a cleaner until you have a camera that can do it, or you learn how to use your camera in a way that you can do it. Maybe you need to simplify your photos a little bit, or shoot them in a different way or a different setting or something like that. So that is why I will not teach you how to do fake blur. Like I could, but I feel like I would be doing you a huge disservice, and I don't want to do that. So, but because let me tell you, I have some photos and I don't even think that I could like bring myself to post them, but if I find them, like they're like way hidden somewhere on a hard drive where I had added fake blur to things because I didn't, I mean, like this was like when I was like a teenager. I didn't understand how you created blur. And like sometimes I would get photos and there would be blur and then sometimes there wasn't and I couldn't figure it out. And then, I learned that you could, I'm actually very, very good at Photoshop. So before I started doing, working with product photos and stuff, I actually created these like fantasy scenes with like children's photography. So I would take children and I would put them with giraffes and, very, very elaborate things. So I guess all of that like blurring helped me with that. But when I first started, like I go back to them now and I just cringe because I'm just like, that did not look good at all. It's just not something, and it just does a disservice. It's just so much better to just do it in camera. And you can do it. You can do it with your iPhone without shooting in portrait mode, or your Android without shooting in any of the portrait modes. You can do it in your camera, even if you just have a kit lens. So it is something that can be done. You just may have to play around with it some and figure it out. But, oh, what did I just do? Okay. Okay. There we go. All right. I'm back. Okay. So, what was I saying? Oh, if you do have a digital SLR though, or a mirrorless camera or, something like that where you can have interchangeable lenses, definitely look into, like a nifty 50, which is like a 50 millimeter prime lens. Usually, like I know Nikon and Canon, you can get, like those prime lenses pretty inexpensive. If you have a micro 4/3 mirrorless camera, like I do, there are Sigma art lenses, which are really nice. You could get, I think they have like a 28 millimeter, which, this is going to probably be over pretty much everybody's head, but a 28 millimeters almost equivalent to a 50 millimeter on micro 4/3 with mirrorless cameras. But, so they're the nifty 50s or whatever. And if you want to tell me your camera model and like what lens would I need to find for this, you can, put it in the comments. But they're typically somewhere between like $100 and $150. And, but they're very nice. They're a really good, start for, getting, starting to get doing some more creative things with your photography. So, okay. Let me see. All right. This is so helpful. I'm taking notes. I'm really glad. Let me see. Does anybody, let's see. I use my Android Samsung tablet right now for photos. Okay, yeah. So if you're using your tablet, you just want to make sure that you're creating, so like most tablet cameras are actually, most tablet cameras are already a pretty wide aperture, but because they're such a narrow lens, they don't really create a lot of background blur just from the aperture. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to create that distance, between your background and the photo. And I don't know. So can you see here, like as I put my, like, let me see if it'll focus in on my finger. Okay. I have to find the camera first. Okay. So it's not going to focus in on my finger. I'm not doing a very good job at this. Okay. But, okay, can you see, like, my finger here? And as I pull it farther away, like, it becomes more in focus with my face. Like, does that make sense? So you just have to create that separation between your subject and the background, and that's going to help you create the blur when you're using something like a tablet. So, you may just need to be shooting in a bigger space. Okay. A Nikon D3200. So yeah, a Nikon, so Nikon always confuses me because so right now I shoot with, Olympus, but before before I switched to mirrorless, I shot Canon. So Nikon has a 50mm lens, but they have like two different like versions. So you would just want to make sure that you have the, and I think it's like an AF version or something. I don't know. That doesn't make sense because it's like autofocus. Maybe tag Brandy because I know she shoots with Nikon and ask her because I know there's like two different versions of the 50mm and one's like backwards compatible, but one's not. Cause like there's a difference between like full frame and, crop sensor, which the Nikon D3200 would be a crop sensor. So you just want to make sure that you're getting the right lens for, your specific model. But I know that the Nikon ones are like $125. But I'll look and I'll try to figure it out because I can usually figure it out. A Sony A5000. Okay. You get frustrated every time you try to mess with the settings. Okay. So, I actually have a Sony, too. So I have like a bunch of cameras. When my grandmother died, she also loved photography. And so I inherited some cameras from her. So I have a Sony as well. And, so I don't know what lenses you have, but, I do have the 50mm and the 85mm for the Sony. And they're just really, really awesome. I know that the Sony lenses run a little bit more. But they also have a Sigma, the Sigma art lenses, which are a little bit less expensive for Sony. So you may want to check into that. But, with Sony, with your camera, just like I would do with any digital SLR, like try putting it in aperture priority maybe first or, putting it in auto first, take a couple photos and then flip it over, see what the settings are, and then go from there and shoot from there. So try that and see if that's less frustrating for you because that's going to give you a starting off point. So that's going to give you, okay, if I put in these settings, it's at least like my camera meter is saying like this is properly exposed. So at least I'm starting from there and then I can, kind of adjust things as I need to try to get it exactly tuned into where I want it. Let me see if I missed any at the top here. All right, I'm not, okay. So I'll give you guys a couple more minutes, but, yeah, so, I'm going to let me actually, while I'm waiting for you guys to see if you have any more questions, I'm just going to post that, exposure triangle course in the comments. And, if any of you are looking for, one-on-one, help, or if you think you need one-on-one helps, that is something that I started offering. And so what it is it's like a month of, like one-on-one support for you. And I'm using an app called Voxer. So you can it's like a walkie-talkie app. So like as you think of a question or even as you're shooting, photography, you can send me your question and I check the app, like 3 to 4 times a day. So you get like a really quick response from me. So like it's, kind of like it's like having me in your pocket almost. And what you can do. So I have that for like a month. And right now everything in my shop, I don't know if you guys know this, through Sunday is 50% off. So you just use the code, Summer Fling, all one word, all capital. And, so I have that going on. And then I also have, a couple more spots. So I have, my entire shop is on sale right now for over 75%. So like if you're somebody who's really trying to get into photography and editing, it gets you all of my courses, all of my actions, all of my presets, everything. And why am I not finding the link to the thing here? Okay. Everything for, over 75% off. And that's, same code, Summer Fling. And that again is through Sunday. So, but I'm going to get you guys the link to the course here. 'Cause I really think it will help you guys out a lot. if you watch that, because I go through the exposure triangle, what it is, what your what aperture does, what shutter does, what ISO does, and how they all work together, how they all work separately. And here we go. Found it. Okay, so I'm coming over and I'm pasting that now for you guys. All right. So you can check out that. So, it has the preview thing. Hold on, I don't think that one's gonna work for you. Does anybody else have any other? What did I just do? Any other questions about anything? Photography, Photoshop, Lightroom, batch editing. Okay, that one should work. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, I'm going to check that out. I have a really hard time getting good photos of my kids modeling ponchos. Yeah, definitely check out the exposure triangle thing, and then also try the trick where you're if you're doing kids, I don't know how cooperative they are. Sometimes if I'm shooting my kids, I'll start with my shutter speed, setting my shutter speed first, because I want to be able to freeze motion if they're moving. So you may find shooting, try shutter priority first, set your shutter speed. You want to, for kids, I always am at least like 1/160th of a second to freeze, sometimes 1/200th of a second, depending on the age of the children and how fast they'll bolt. And other things too, like your lens and stuff. If you're using like a really telephoto lens, you want to make sure that if you're using like 150 millimeter lens, I'd probably be at least like 1/200th of a second, 1/300th of a second, just because it's such a telephoto lens. But I actually cover that in the course, and why you do that. And I have a shutter speed cheat sheet, like what your shutter speed should be at for different situations. So but yeah, so if you're trying to take pictures of kids that are modeling, it may be helpful to shoot in shutter priority first, see where the settings are, and then kind of tweak the settings from there. Because like if I shoot a photo in like shutter priority, like maybe, and I want my shutter at a certain speed. And so my camera is going to put my ISO really low, or my ISO higher or whatever. I mean, the camera can do like funny things because it's an algorithm. So then I might be like, ooh, I don't want my ISO that high. So maybe I can open my aperture more. And if I open my aperture more, I can lower the ISO a little bit. So it's just like kind of playing and tweaking and seeing where you can get. Okay. And then, yes, that is my website. So thefatphotog.com, that's my website. All my stuff's there. And that course is there. And then I also have another course, like I have another free course, which is a mock-up course, which isn't really what we're talking about today, but, I have that too that you can check out while you're there. Cause we all like free stuff and learning is fun. So I think so anyways. So does anybody else, we have a few more minutes. Does anybody else have any other questions about anything? And, as always, if you have questions after the video, or if you're just watching the replay, just post the questions in the comments and I will check back in and answer those for you at a later time. Or if you get off and then you're like, oh crap, I should have asked that, just ask in the comments and I can answer it. So just wait a couple minutes. This is always the hard part, the delay between questions. Okay. Oh, and then, yeah, how fast they bolt. Yeah, I have 3 kids. So, and my youngest, she actually loves her picture. taken, like if I set my camera out on my computer desk, she'll bring it to me and she'll go, cheese. Like she loves to get her picture taken, but like she has very little patience for me, like to get things set up. So like I could be like, oh, let me, turn on my camera or whatever and make sure the settings are right. And then she'll like have already bolted off the chair or whatever. But sometimes she can be pretty cooperative. Okay. All right. Well, whoop, did it again. My microphone, sorry. Okay. So I don't see any more questions coming in, and that's totally fine. Just ask your questions in the comments. If you would like to find out more about me and what I do and the things that I sell, you can go to my website, thefatphotog.com. You can sign up for that free course on the exposure triangle. It's very quick. With my courses, even my full length courses, I try to make the modules 10 to 15 minutes. So you can do things in quick bursts in between life and kids, because that's kind of how my life works. And I like to do things in little bite-sized pieces. So it's a very bite-sized course. But once you take the course, if you have questions, you can always message me or whatever. Like I said, everything is on sale in my shop right now using the code SUMMERFLING through August 4th, which is Sunday. So if there's anything that you've had your eye on, now is the time, because this is probably like my last really big sale until Black Friday. And you guys want to make sure that you have really awesome pictures before Black Friday, because that's going to be crazy and you want to get all of those sales from your really awesome pictures. If you would like to, if you would like to get more like little freebies and little things, the first Tuesday of every month, I have a membership. Again, it's free. I send out free little goodies. Sometimes I also do design as well. So I do like hand lettering and stuff like that. So sometimes it's like a cute little thing that I'll hand letter, or little digital stickers, or a cool brush for Photoshop. Sometimes it's other things, like little mini tutorials and stuff like that. But that's the Fat Tuesday Club, so you can sign up for that. It's the first Tuesday of every month. And then in my Facebook group, which I'll link to that too, I'll put that link in there too. I have a VIP Facebook group where I go live once a month as well. And so it's just another opportunity to ask questions or get feedback on your images. And I also, I'm also there to ask questions in my VIP group. So that is all. Thank you guys so much for spending your evening with me. Have a wonderful weekend. And if you're watching the replay and you have questions, ask them in the comments. If you liked watching this video, make sure that you give me some hearts or some likes, just so other people, the more you guys interact, the more other people will see it. So it's just good for everyone in Flourish to see it, so we can all have the most gorgeous pictures ever. So thanks so much, guys, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye!